books, but also as a whole quite visually compelling. She uses, for instance, big parachutes, and inside she makes these kinds of installations. So she has a very visual idea of how she wants to present it, but she says you need information and you also need research. So not just putting the image there, but showing to the audience, what did you find out? And how did the image came into existence? And I think that that point of Martha Rosler is something that I always have in my mind also when I look at work that presents itself as socially engaged. And I think that indeed here, if you would only focus on one image, you could get these questions into your head, and also the criticism. And at the same time, you see also information, like here there is the dialogue on the wall. There is the video where you have the talk with the social researcher who did all the interviews with people who were there, and he gives statistics. He gives, and also texts inside the images. There is this mix, and I think that is special. You don't see that also that often. There is sometimes a conflict between either going only the visual way in these art practices or only the documentary way. And I think this is one pushes the other. My question to Bluclia would be, which we maybe can go into, like how do you deal with that? Do you have a certain strategy in that way? That would be the question. Then about this other direction in thinking, this philosopher Emmanuel Levinas, to read his books is even still a big challenge to me and anybody else. But there are some basic moments in this shaking of hands that did remind me of his way of thinking. And let's see, I will keep it, I have to keep it short. What fascinates me a lot is one of the most inspiring thoughts of Levinas is, according to him, encounter evolves a movement. So it is really traveling a distance from one to the other. So there is a distance, and the intriguing thing is that, of course, when you meet somebody and you get into a talk, or you meet somebody more and you get to know each other more and more and more, you get the feeling that you really know the other one. And he says, no, there always remains a distance to travel, because he says you never can get the otherness of another person into your space. It will always escape your expectations. You cannot get into the head of somebody else. And this gives also freedom, because in that way you always for yourself have this idea of, okay, I never will be totally grasped by somebody else. Even Levinas says that even sounds like Sartre's essentialistic or existentialistic point of view, that if you are imprisoned, then still you are free, which is a kind of strange way of seeing things. But there is this idea also alive with Levinas. And then there is a connection with this video, and the point is that Levinas says that where does this drive to do something come from? Where does the drive to have this idea of, well, things have to change because this is inhuman, or something should happen? Where does it come from? We mostly have the idea that like if you want to have an action undertaken, that you are the one who feels responsible and that you do it, and that you are the one who wants to change. And he turns it actually around. He says there is the other one, and there is a kind of force, a kind of call from the other who actually brings you to do that. he has his complicated thoughts to to make this into his way of thinking. But in fact it is a quite simple idea. You meet somebody and even the presence of somebody else will have you feeling a little bit forced to at least give notice of the other one. Even if somebody doesn't need any help. If you are, that sounds maybe very trivial, but if you have, there is for instance a work by Liam Gillick, a British artist, and he is not really somebody who you would say of that he's a socially engaged artist. But this principle of feeling this kind of call by somebody else, he says, I make environments to which people can stand with their back. He says you don't need to see them actually, but it functions as a kind of a bus halte.
A bus stop.
A bus stop. You have these, so you keep a little bit dry, a shelter, a bus stop shelter. And if you are standing for the bus there, you wait, and then somebody else also comes and stands there. And then you feel like, okay, should I say something or not? Or should I... even the presence of somebody also has a kind of force. Kind of, okay, should I react? Should I respond? Well, in Russia, at least, I have come across many artists who work actually from that point of view. They feel that their art is a response and not something that just comes from their aesthetic feelings or their idea of aesthetics. And that is something that I also encounter here in this video.
Shall we finish on that point?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I'll introduce to you the last speaker. That's Professor Mika Bal. She's a professor of theory and literature and the founding director of the Amsterdam School for Cultural Analysis, ESCA. As it said here, and I completely subscribe by it, the night is too short to tell you all about her and her work, contribution and award, so I will only mention a few.
10 minutes?
Really a few.
10 minutes?
No, that's why I'm saying I will only mention a few because the list is indeed long enough. But it encompasses cultural analysis, critical semiotics, feminist theory, relation between verbal and visual arts, transcultural theory, anthropology, psychoanalysis, methodology of interdisciplinary approaches, museology, and I'll stop here. On top of it, she's of course interested in contemporary literature, French and English 19th century literature, Hebrew Bible, 17th century art, popular culture, language and science, and I'll stop here. It was her project, Migratory Aesthetics, Double Movement, that made Mika Bal a particularly appealing critic to be invited tonight. It constituted an attempt to make the concept concrete in an exploration of the interaction between the two forms of movements. Video as much practiced form of the moving image, and migration and the social movement of people. The exhibition To Move, Migratory Aesthetics, has traveled from Murcia to Enkhuizen, and that I should tell you is in the Netherlands, which I find interesting that I should not tell you that Murcia is in Spain, and from Oslo to Belfast and Navan, which is in Ireland. I will now give the floor to Mika.
Thank you very much, Barak. And can you all hear me in the back? I've been worrying about the acoustics, but I think they're pretty good, huh? Okay, wave if you don't. Thank you. I first of all want to congratulate Klukja for a brilliant exhibition in one of the most prominent galleries of Amsterdam. I don't know if you realize how prestigious this place is. And I want to congratulate Leila Akinci for having secured one of Russia's most inventive artists. And I really, really think this is a fabulous exhibition. That's the first thing I wanted to say. I have met Klukja, and I'll tell you how that happened, a few years ago. I have a number of things in common with her in terms of our attitude. First of all, I think we share a positive perspective on migratory culture without losing sight of the suffering that the negative migratory culture inflicts on migrants unnecessarily. And I think that one of the striking things in this beautiful video is that this dance and a certain cheerfulness goes together with compassionate attitudes to the difficulties. And I think that is really important to realize. And then the second point we have in common is the imagination as a form of understanding and knowledge production. And I'll come back to that. And then the third point that follows from that is that we are both committed to artistic research, which is something very difficult. But if we don't pursue that, knowledge becomes simply domination. I think that knowledge production needs the imagination, needs artistic expression in order to escape from the tendency to become a grid. And a grid is a prison. How have I met Glukla? At the beginning of the previous year, in September 2011, I had an exhibition in St. Petersburg of my work on migration, on migratory culture. And we wanted from the beginning, we wanted a Russian artist or several Russian artists, or see how it goes, but a Russian visual voice to respond to the work. And Glukla was presented as a possible collaborator and partner in this project, and we hit it off really well. It didn't turn out so easy for reasons that have nothing to do with our sharing, the way we share these opinions.